Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of the Shelf Made podcast. Super excited to have a good friend here in the industry, Erik Kiker from the Digestible brands. Erik, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Rocking the signature hat, as always. So I reached out to Erik earlier this week or late last week because I kept seeing the same thing with a lot of the brands that we work with, just a lot of branding missteps. And so I asked Erik if he wanted to come on the podcast and discuss one really kind of critical question, which is, what's the biggest mistake that he sees brands make when it comes to their branding, and what steps can they kind of make to fix that? And so, Erik, I don't know if you want to start just kind of giving a little bit about your background, kind of why you're the master of branding and marketing, kind of why I brought you on here, and then kind of dive into that question, and we can kind of have a little bit of a conversation about it.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, I don't know if I'm the master. I am a person who does it. And when I guess a lot of people have different definitions of that word branding, for me, it really is the language that you use. It's the what do you say to people. Design is super important, but for me, we learn more from language first. And of course, I've been a writer for 30 years. I started, 30 years ago, writing copy, and I've worked my way up through a couple of agencies and a number of freelance stints. I'm on freelance stint number 3. And what I've learned over time is that most brands think they're saying something unique and differentiating or differentiatable, as I say, but they're not. It's you see most brands that are sitting on a shelf next to each other, or most brands in a particular category, and the majority of them are saying sort of shades of gray difference between them and their competitor. I know a lot of brands do know this, which is, to me, the most important thing always in the consumer's mind is taste.
Right.
So, you can test almost anything. And even if it's a highly functional sort of like food or beverage, consumers will still reject the function if it doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
The whole natural channel, what is awesome about it is that, a lot of formulators or co-packers or whatever recipe people have figured out a way to combine nutrition with taste. So we really don't have a lot of the products that we had way back in the day when I shopped at the original Alfalfa's market in Boulder. And if you wanted to eat something healthy that was in a package, you really had to sort of like suffer.
Right.
But today, it's not the case. Just about anything you pick up at a Whole Foods or Sprouts or Natural Grocers or whatever is going to taste pretty darn good.
And are you feeling, though, that the brands will push functionality over taste and really the execution?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them push the free-froms. I mean, I wish I could have gone to Expo West this last year, but there was no Expo West. A little thing that I like to do to amuse myself when I go to Expo West is I'll go up to a booth and I'll ask the fresh-faced, booth attendant, what's your story? And invariably they launch into, well, we're gluten-free, we're free trade, we're fair trade, we're whatever. And I was like, no, that's not your story. Those are your attributes.
Right.
And they're the same as the guy next door. So what is your story?
Yeah.
And then they say, oh, we couldn't find a nut butter that delivered flax seeds, so we made our own.
Right. Is that
like,
well, there's one in the aisle over. Did you try them?
Yeah. I mean, or if they don't have flax seeds, maybe they've got chia seeds, or you know what I mean? It's like they're shades of gray formulation differences. And a lot of brands think that they are the one and only brand that does this.
Right.
And a lot of times that this is tied to function or it's tied to taste. Some brands do it and get away with it and do it really well. Like, can I tell a story about a brand that I've seen that's done it really well? Ithaca hummus,
Yeah.
right? I know Chris, and we're LinkedIn buddies and all that kind of stuff, but I don't own shares in the brand or anything, and I'm not his branding guy or his messaging guy. But they said, you've never tasted hummus before.
Right.
Or this is the first time you've tasted hummus, even if it's your 100th time.
Yeah.
That is a cool hook.
Yeah.
And they have to back it up, right? A lot of us have eaten hummus, and a lot of us know what to expect, and a lot of us know that a lot of hummus is just sort of like the same.
Yeah.
And so if Ithaca comes along and they can really fulfill that promise for people, people are going to be like, cool, that you told me the truth. Now, a lot of brands can't do that.
Right.
Most brands can't do that. So for me, what I try to do in my work is I try to find a piece of language that sits at the top of the communication hierarchy, that comes from me digging in with the people that work on the brand, but mainly the founder. Like, you don't do this just for money.
Right.
And
I think it goes back to almost like, why did you think that this had to exist in the world?
right.
Yeah.
I call it the spark of inspiration, right? That's not terribly unique. But everybody says, well, everybody remembers where they were when blank happened,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, I think that every founder remembers where she or he was when they got that idea. And they were like, their eyes got big and their heart rate went up, and they were like, oh my God, what if we could do this?
Right.
And then if they're on the shelf, or if they're in e-commerce, or if they exist in the world, then they succeeded at doing that.
Right.
So what I like to do is go in with that founder. It happened just yesterday. I was talking to a brand. I'm not going to say who it is, but they are a very premium product in a very parody category.
Got it.
But they're speaking like a parody product. And I started talking to this guy that founded this brand, and I look at his ads and I look at him and hear what came out of his mouth, and the two things could not be more polar opposite.
Right.
And I was like, where is this passion in your ads, or in your story, or in your tactics, or in whatever?
Right.
And we had a great conversation, and I think that we're going to end up working together, because what I think I helped him discover was that he's got all this emotion around his brand, and what really, really, really makes it different, that has never been captured.
So is it as simple as saying maybe a lack of, when you're thinking about your marketing plan, a lack of almost self-reflection on like, why are we in this again? Like, and then how can we clearly and transparently relay that message to every single person who grabs this product?
Right. Yes, exactly. And sometimes that might have to do with the function, and sometimes that might have to do with the taste.
Right.
And other times it has to do with none of the above.
Mm-hmm.
Because it has more to do with the why.
Yeah.
We've all heard Simon Sinek. He's made that word famous, even though people that do what I do have always thought about it that way.
Right.
Why does the brand exist beyond the package, or the shelf, or the website, or whatever? Why does it exist? What is the problem that you are trying to solve on the behalf of your consumer? And why are you the best suited to solve it? It doesn't have to have anything to do with the product. Sometimes I like to ask people to think of, like, complete the sentence. We're not a blank, we're a blank. Like, we're not a nut butter, we're freedom from being 300 pounds. I mean, whatever. It's like, yeah. What is it that you are giving to people that they need in their lives? And they will go, I haven't heard that before. I like that. That's not just another guilt-free snack, or permissible indulgence, or free from story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm surprised how few brands just execute on taste and say like, "Listen, we're the best tasting in the category, and that's what we work for." I think obviously it works for Ithaca. Like, I've been a big proponent of the product for a while since I've
Great.
Thomas, like Oatly, same thing. Mason Dixie biscuit, same thing. It's like, there's a level of some sort of functionality, but it's also it's just damn good, and it's like that. That's what's gonna continue to make it an everyday purchase in my cart every single week. So I think that level of transparency with yourself, understanding like why are you in this, and then how can I clearly peel across the levels of like the layers of the onion, and then actually be able to say like, okay, this is our message, this is what we need to go out with, and this is what's going to smack that customer straight in the face, and not just be a me too of kind of like, this is what I'll say see in the market. We're going to kind of repeat that.
Yeah, and it's and you mentioned Oatly, and look at their messaging.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the product.
Right.
It's long copy. It is completely. Nobody would ever say that was a good idea.
Right.
Long copy on out of home transit or tactics. It's like, what? But then if you look at it and you read it, you get a feeling of personality. And they decided that they would rather be the oat milk with a personality.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great. I mean, and I think you're bringing up a lot of great points. I would love to know kind of just like the one thing you can kind of leave the smaller, the emerging brands that are struggling to figure out what's the one kind of exercise they can maybe do just to kind of assess this internally and just do a quick, easy, obviously they're not going to fix everything, but just like maybe that first step.
I've got questions that I ask in my workshop, and I give them out freely, and I invite people to put a great big Post-it up on the wall and get a Sharpie. I prefer the chisel tip, and get the group in the room and ask a few of these questions, and have the mouthiest of you be the moderator. Ask these questions. Just off the top, right? What gives us the audacity to think we can win? Audacity is like one of my favorite words. Why, of all these brands, this impossible boulder that we have to push uphill every single day,
right?
What gives us the audacity to think we can win? And be hard on yourself. And if you say, we're the best tasting, then you'd better be able to come up with something like Ithaca did to make it so, right?
And if chia seeds, like maybe we should take a step back and really assess, like, do we have the firepower here to actually drive the category forward in our brand?
Yeah. And does anybody really care?
Yeah.
I mean, Health Warrior did a great job with chia seeds.
Right.
But they were the first, and they were the only, and they, another question that's great is, what will the world forfeit if we lose? Right?
Like that
if
one.
You make a grain-free puff, and I'm sorry, but if you were to go away,
yeah,
right? Does the world really give up that much?
Right. And who do they go turn to after that? Right? What's the secondary purchase?
I mean, Siete came along and like boom, and they've done great. And now there's another brand called Sonar.
Yeah.
And they're trying to be a grain-free chip too. So as soon as people sort of get onto your thing and get the investment dollars to sort of like block and tackle better than you from an operational perspective, where's your brand go?
Yeah.
So what will the world forfeit if we lose? And then the third one is, what do we want for our consumer? Right? Like, and if it starts with, we want them to have a guilt-free snack, then I will ask you to slap yourself.
Yeah, guilt-free, we gotta just send that out to sea and retire it.
Get in line.
Yeah.
Right? So what do we really want for them? Do we want them to never go on another diet? Do we want them to have some confidence that they're not going to end up fat and dead or whatever? I mean, what is it? I keep going to health, but what else could it be?
Right.
And then I think, you really have to get to that. If the founder's not in the room, don't do the exercise.
Yeah.
Or shortcut all that stuff and find somebody that does it professionally. I mean, like I do it professionally, so I can help people cut through some of the nonsense. It's hard to do anything for yourself.
Yeah. Well, you don't know the right questions to ask, right? And so I think having someone like you in the room asking the right questions is pivotal to a lot of these brands. And I think that kind of brings me to my kind of closing remark for sure. Like, where can people find you? Obviously, what's the easiest way to reach out and kind of move forward.
Erik Kiker on LinkedIn, or an email is just Erik at the Digestible brand. Erik Kiker at LinkedIn is easier because you don't have to spell anything.
Yeah, and I've worked with brands that have worked with Erik. Like, the work is spectacular, and it's definitely worth it. I'm so appreciative. I know we kind of went a little bit longer than our usual 10 minutes, but I feel like awesome information.
Forever.
And we could both definitely wrap on this for a while. But Erik, I'm super appreciative of you joining, dropping some knowledge for this episode, and hopefully this won't be the last time we have you on.
Thanks, man. And yeah, you don't have to hire me. Hire somebody, though. Get somebody in the room who's got a lot of experience writing, because a lot of times we try to come up with things in the room that could be headlines or taglines and things like that. But just find somebody.
Yeah.
Come in and be sort of like call you on your BS.
Right. And I think the nice thing about you too is you put out a ton of free content, right? So people are going to get nuggets that they can then put into play and into action on their own as well.
Yeah, I got millions of articles on my blog, which is thedigestiblebrand.com. And sorry, it's not updated, but I've been making a living during this thing. And there's a lot of ideas in there that you could read up on and sort of like maybe all you got to do is have a different angle.
Yeah.
It's got to be true. It should come from the founder's sort of like spark of inspiration. But then from there, it's like whatever works for the culture of the brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And me and Erik did a workshop a couple months ago. Maybe I'll throw that on our YouTube channel so people can reference that as well. I appreciate it, Erik. Thank you so much.
Man. I appreciate you. I really appreciate it. I hope people got something out of it.
No, they 100% did. And I'll get